sell this. Like, I want to say something to him because he's fucking up there on Mars. So it's kind of sick that I get satisfaction out of that, but I just had to say something because it was so ridiculously priced over what it should have been. Whatever, right? So I saved the post because I saw it on Facebook too. It was the same thing on Facebook. He had it on Facebook. But I saved the post and I'm like, I'm just gonna watch this. I'm just curious because I said this thing will literally be on here for over a year if he tries to keep it at 6,500, and it will not sell. If I look back here in a year, it'll still be there. So I looked the next morning and it was at 5,500. So I'm like, wow, maybe he actually listened to me. He's lowering his price a little bit. I'm sure he didn't know anything about Blue Book and just priced the motorcycle at 6,500 for no reason. And then he looked at the Blue Book and was like, man, he's kind of right. This bike has higher mileage, and he sent me an example of a bike that was a bigger engine that had 1/10 the miles, where the guy was asking 3,500. So maybe I should lower my price here if I actually want to sell this. And believe me, he wants to sell it because it sounds like his grandpa died or his dad died or something, and he inherited a bike. And he doesn't ride motorcycles, and it's just sitting in his, whoever's garage for the time being. So he lowered it to 5,500, and then I looked the next morning and he lowered it to 4,500. And I haven't looked today, but it's still not going to sell at 4,500. It's still not going to sell at 4,500. And hey, if you're a buyer, if you're someone who's looking for a motorcycle, and there's someone that's asking 4,500 and there's someone that's asking 3,500 for basically the same bike, and by the way, his bike's going to have higher miles than most of the other bikes out there, but who are you going to contact? Do you want to try to talk the guy from at 4,500 down to 2,500, or do you want to try to talk the guy from 3,500 down to 3,000 or 2,500? It's a no-brainer. Why am I going to want to reach out to a guy that has a bike that has high miles and he thinks it's worth $1,000 above? Go. Is the light going? Not working. I don't think I had to stop there, but a couple of those lights have been off, so I just have been stopping. So I don't understand that. Some people I just don't understand it. It's like, do you think there's someone idiotic enough to pay you $3,000 above the Blue Book price of a bike that's in really good condition? I don't know who's gonna do it, especially when there's other examples that are in better condition with lower miles where they're asking half as much. So doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe you think your writing degree is going to, because you wrote a nice story about having the wind in your hair and having your woman behind you and going up and down the coast, that's somehow going to get them to pay $3,000 more for a bike that has 43,000 miles on it. No, money is still money, right? So I don't know. It's just funny to me. I don't think it'll sell at 4,500. It won't, by the way, because we're still in the winter, and I really don't think it would even sell at the Blue Book price. I don't think someone would want to pay $3,600 for that bike just because of the mileage. Again, it'd be one thing if there wasn't a lot of them out there, but you can find a VTX 1300 where the guy is asking 3,500 or 3,000 even. For the same bike. So I don't, I'd say that bike probably, if I was gonna buy that bike and wanted to actually ride it, I wouldn't pay more than $2,500. And that's if I wanted it. That's if I really wanted that bike. If I said, man, I really like the Honda VTXs, they're good bikes. They have, I'm not too concerned about the high miles. I know it's a reliable bike, and I like the fact that your grandpa did all the maintenance. But at the same time, hey, it does have 43,000 miles, so I can go get one that has 8,000 miles for like 3,500. So hey, would you consider like $2,500? And that's literally the most I would pay for it. That's if I wanted it. Again, I got my BMW for $2,000, and that's a full touring motorcycle, like top of the line CD player, heated grips, full fairing. That's a real touring motorcycle, and I got that for 2 G's, and it had 18,000 miles on it. It didn't have 45,000 miles on it. So there are good deals to be had out there. I just kind of laugh when I see people that are asking for stuff that it's not logical. It makes no sense. No one is going to look at that and say that's a good deal, or even something they even want to look at further. And I can respect people that are just asking a fair price off the bat, right? If you're asking, like the guy that I bought my BMW from, he was asking $2,000, right? Because he realized if I ask $2,000, I'm gonna get a lot of people that are interested, because that's a lot of motorcycle for the money. And so he asked $2,000, and what did I do? I looked up the Blue Book value. I think the Blue Book value was higher than what he was even asking, and I knew it had lower miles than what the year was. It only had 19,000 miles. And so I said, hey man, if this bike is in like good, decent shape and it runs, and all he said basically was like, you needed to replace the front brake pads, which whatever. And he actually had already bought the brake pads, he just didn't install them. So I went and looked at the bike. I'm like, man, this is a real motorcycle. It has a luggage on it. It has a radio. It's got like cruise control. It's a serious motorcycle. I could see myself doing long, full day, 12 hours of riding on that bike a day if you wanted to, with no problem. And so I just paid him the full price. It's like, I'm not going to negotiate with this. This is already a good deal. I know you're pricing it very fair, and I actually want a bike like this, so I'm going to pay you exactly what you're asking. But even he told me, because I remember this guy, he told me when I got there and when I talked to him on the phone, he's like, yeah, well, hey, if you want it, just come look at it. And he gave me his address. But he had said he already had a bunch of people that were just flaking out, right? So that were like trying to offer him less money and wanted him to, you know, do all this stuff before they even came and looked at it. And so that just tells you it doesn't really matter where you price something, but you are going to get people who are interested if you price it reasonably, right? If you price something so high where people are like, man, I kind of like that, but this guy's just, it's so much more than what I want to spend, and it's so much more than what it's actually worth. Like, you know, what I think is a fair price is what someone would be willing to pay for something to sell it within a month, right? If I want to sell something and I put it online, I think it's reasonable, especially in this market, that I should be able to sell it within a month. If I can't sell it within a month, I either have something that is, maybe people are coming and looking at it and they're realizing, man, this is kind of a pile of junk. But it shouldn't take more than 2 people that come look at your vehicle and that want to buy it. My brother has a CRX he's trying to sell, and he's had like 6 people or more come and look at it, and none of them have been serious because the car is old, the car has problems, it's not perfect, it's 30 years old. And when people get there, they're like, oh man, well, I like this car, I like the way it looks, I like Hondas, I like, you know, everything about this car, but this one's kind of in rough shape, and you know, I know it's going to cost money to get it up and running, and you know, maybe I'll give you like $1,000 for it, man, right? So, but that's nowhere near what he's asking. So it just turns out to be a waste of time, right? But if you have something that's in like decent shape, that runs good and performs as it should, I think you should be able to sell it within a month if it's reasonably priced. If you're asking more than what it's actually worth, it's very rare that you're going to get someone to pay that, especially on used stuff, you know. Again, I think the only time you have leverage when you're selling something is if it's brand new, because there's nowhere else you can buy a brand new car other than just dealerships, right? So they're going to overcharge you. But the used market, there's so many things out there that are used. They're not in new condition. You can point out a million little things that are chipped or cracked or not working like they should or not completely clean, whatever, right? So that's why they're asking less. That's why they're asking less for it. But I guess to wrap it all up, there are good deals to be had out there. You just have to look long enough and understand. The Blue Book is a good indicator. I don't think you should ever pay more than the Kelley Blue Book unless you really want something and it has very low miles and it's been maintained very well and is incredibly clean, you know. Otherwise, hey, the Blue Book value, it's like that's what you should get. And I would look to pay less than the Blue Book value, right? The only time as a seller you should be asking more than the Blue Book value is for the reasons I just said. It has basically no miles, it's in perfect shape, it was used as a second car or a second bike, it only has 10,000 miles on it and it's 10 years old, something like that, you know. But as a buyer, you're not going to want to pay more than what the fair market value is for it, right? Why would you? You're giving the guy cash, you're taking what he's not using, and you're doing a transaction, so you're going to want to do it. you're going to want to get a deal when you do it, and the seller is going to want to get he might be willing to negotiate